we would get, you know, those big old boxes of matches.
Mm-hmm.
We'd get those matches and stick them in the ground. We stick some up close, some further back in the yard, some up to 25 and 30 feet away. And we would sit up on the porch. He would hit one, strike it. We would track how many hits he had and how many misses he had. We had a system to determine who would win that, and I got as good as he got at it, and it wasn't fun for him to play anymore, but sometimes we would do that to warm up. So
what kind of distance were those at?
anywhere from me to you, or from me to the wall over there, or from me to the cash register over there. You just
so it's from 5 to maybe 50 feet.
yeah, I guess the average would be between 10 and 25 feet, but yeah, up to 50 feet. Sometimes we'd stick them at the other side of the street over there, but it was so hard to see that you couldn't see it unless you had a scope. Of course, we used a scope sometimes, but that wasn't fair. I mean, that's how we played. It wasn't fair to use a scope. But yeah, you use a scope sometimes. But
now one thing you said was that the average gun battle takes place at under 20 feet typically.
from 9 to about 27 feet, 21 feet, 15 feet, 18 feet, all in that range in there. Maybe as close as from me to you. Definitely from here to the wall. 80% of them. So when he wasn't there, and sometimes when he was there, I just get me loads of BBs or pellets and line out my matches and strike them. And sometimes I would flip off the the little red part. I'd hit that instead of striking the white part. But every once in a while, if you knew what you were doing, you could hit the side. With some of the games that we played, we tried to strike the match and make it light without hitting the white part, the top of the match. We'd hit the side towards the top. If you did that and you just barely nicked it, you could light it. So the main thing is you just barely have to nick it or hit it really hard at the top, kind of coming down. If you hit it straight across, a lot of times you'll just break it apart. You kind of almost have to let it just barely graze it, like go into it like that, and it'll light. So we used to play that all the time. So I'd recommend for people to get a gun, practice with a 22 or a BB if they can't afford the ammo, which is very expensive nowadays. And just plink. You can buy. I know you live in an apartment. You can buy a trap for pellets and BB guns. They have little animals in there, things like that, little bitty targets or whatever. You could set it up across the other side of your living room. Just sit back and recover your BBs or your pellets. Pellets are harder than BBs to recover, but reuse them over and over and over again. You might want to make a backdrop of some kind of plastic in case you miss if you weren't good at it, but if you're good at it, you're going to hit inside the box all the time. Just a matter of whether you hit the target or not. And just play at various distances hitting those targets. That would be a good thing for training. Because I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of rounds of practice doing that. That's how I learned to shoot. And if you're recycling BBs, it can go a long ways on a little money. The new BB guns, new BB rifles, the higher end of them go over 1,000 foot per second.
Really?
You can get a good size round, like 17, like .17, get you over 1,000 foot per second. It's like a firearm. Small game, if you want to hunt small game, maybe you like, whatever you out there in the country or something you like to go hunting. You don't have to necessarily give your position away or give them the knowledge that you have a gun. You can use your BB gun, pellet gun, or something small.
Now, in addition, well, I think people in general need to go read the Constitution a little bit, don't they?
Yeah. Do you still have my pocket edition?
Yeah.
Okay, I was wondering where that was.
Yeah,
I had a
yeah.
couple of them, and
Yeah, that's where I read I think that's where I read that the Utah IRS doesn't bring any cases because it's always not guilty. It's interesting, isn't it, that the Mormons, even though they're whacked out on their beliefs about God, in my opinion,
mine too.
require people to have guns, food supplies, and they're not real generous about sharing with their neighbors.
I don't know. I don't know if it is about guns or not. I think it has to do with the church because Randy, a friend of mine, he says that his church didn't like him to have his guns.
Really?
Yeah, for whatever reason. We didn't get into it a lot. You know how they're funny on some certain things, like their underwear. You know, he told me about their underwear and all that. Anyway, but he said he did it. He's going to do it anyway, because it's for his protection, his family's protection.
Well, the attorney I was telling you about is an ex-Mormon, and he said, "Oh yeah, they're
well, they
pretty much required."
I believe it was you that were telling me that that if you're a Mormon, they're not going to help somebody else in times of trouble unless you're dressed up like an elder. Was it?
Yeah, yeah. I was saying, best place if you're a Mormon, you know, if government wants to shut everything down and you don't have any food, you go up there and they'll share with you. And he says, "Oh no, that says they will think that you've dropped the ball. You're in sin for not providing survival mechanisms for your family, and you won't be shared with. The only way you do it is you dress up like an elder and ask to come in, then you pull out your guns."
Well, you know, but even the Mormons, and you know, a lot of them are good-hearted people and
Absolutely.
good people. And you know what?
They stand against abortion.
They stand against a lot of things, and just their doctrine's all messed up. And if they could come out of there like a lot of Catholics come out of the church, if they can come out of there to see the truth, they're really a lot of sound in a lot of things. And I believe I told you it wasn't too far back. I met somebody. I believe it was the middle of last year, around the anniversary of Carolyn. And I said I had known the guy, and we were talking, and we, based on what he said and based on what I said, I put two and two together. It's like, I know this guy from somewhere. And he would tell me that he took me aside. We talked about the Bible and religion and all that, and he used to go knocking on the doors. And I used to pass out the Mormons, and then, and I still do sometimes, the Jehovah Witnesses tracts and things like that. Most of them don't want to take them. Every once in a while you'll have one that takes them. Anyway, he took it. He took some of my tracts. He looked into it, and then got out of it. Because he has a love of the truth in his heart. See, it all boils down to whether or not you have a love of the truth. If you have a love of the truth, it doesn't matter. You will change your doctrine accordingly. A lot of people live by the doctrine instead of truth. They might be confronted with the truth, and they don't want to change for one reason or another, because peer pressure, their family like that, like Randy. He knew their church was wrong, but he stayed in it for his family. We're supposed to forsake our family for the love of Christ. And he didn't want to lose his family, his wife, his children, because they were indoctrinated into it. And I don't know. Anyway, it's another story, but if you have a love of the truth, and when you find the truth, even if it makes you uncomfortable, you change accordingly. It says a lot for the person and their character, what they really stand for. Are they standing for themselves? Are they standing for acceptance for society, tolerance?
Well, truth is really the great divide. I mean, when you encounter truth, you have to change.
A lot of people don't.
A lot of people don't, but but you're in a dilemma at that point. In other words, when you know you're living a lie, usually something's got to give at that point.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick.